Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Morning.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to update this honorable House on the important project work that is being undertaken by the Ministry of Social Development and Seniors. Mr. Speaker, I will provide updates on the extension of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities to Bermuda, the Children's Commission, litigation guardians, independent living, a senior strategy, assisting the homelessness, and engaging with the third sector. Mr. Speaker, this honorable House will recall that the Ministry of Social Development and Seniors was created on the 9th of October 2020. The ministry comprises of the Department of Child and Family Services, Aging and Disability Services, the K. Margaret Carter Center, and also has responsibility for Human Rights Commission and charities. Mr. Speaker, the 2020 throne speech stated that this government would seek the extension to Bermuda of the UN Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities, reaffirming that all persons, irrespective of their type of disability, must enjoy fundamental human rights and freedoms. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to inform that technical officers have conducted a thorough review of the necessary articles of the convention to determine Bermuda's current compliance and what is required to meet full compliance. It should be noted that compliance is island-wide and not limited to government departments and services. The good news is that Bermuda is compliant in many areas, but there is still much work to be done. Mr. Speaker, I will provide further updates as this initiative progresses. Mr. Speaker, the 2020 throne speech also advises that this government would replace the Child Care Placement Board with a Children's Commission, whose remit would be to advocate for the children in care, promote best practice, policy, programs, and services responses to meet their needs. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to inform that we have conducted a review of the role of the Children's Commission in other jurisdictions and have also reached out to key stakeholders in Bermuda for their views on the proposed Children's Commission, which I am currently considering. Mr. Speaker, I plan to bring legislation forward this year to give effect to the Children's Commission. Mr. Speaker, in tandem with this work, we are collaborating with the Foreign and Commonwealth Office and have engaged consultants to conduct a review of the litigation guardians and counsel services provided for under the Children's Act of 1998, as well as training. Mr. Speaker, to assist us in reviewing the litigation guardian service and any improvements that can be made, two highly experienced court professionals will be working with us over the next 9 months. They will be supporting Bermuda to determine the model that works for us, taking into account the experiences of other jurisdictions. Their role is supportive and advisory. Mr. Speaker, they are currently meeting with key stakeholders in Bermuda about how litigation guardian services can be improved. Litigation Guardian Service. The training will be open to all professionals, including litigation guardians themselves, of course, litigation counsel, members of the judiciary, and social workers. This is not an exclusive list, and there are some key individuals who will also benefit from being involved in this program. Mr. Speaker, the 2020 throne speech also stated that this government would fulfill the void that exists when young people age out of government care. The government will establish independent living coordinators who will devise individual plans for our young people coming out of care to provide affordable housing options, post-secondary education, and career advice, as well as access to physical and mental health care. Mr. Speaker, at age 18, children in care of the director, most of whom have spent the majority of their childhood with the Department of Child and Family Services, are now expected to shift from being dependent on support from the department to young adults dependent on themselves virtually overnight. Some have had little to no support from their family. It is important the Department of Child and Family Services continue to provide support services needed, if agreed to prevent adverse outcomes such as early parenthood, involvement with the criminal justice system, poverty, homelessness, and the dependence on financial assistance. Mr. Speaker, in order to reduce the barrier for successful transition to adulthood and invest in the success of these young people, the Department of Child and Family Services has developed an independent living program. This program is designed specifically for children aging out of care who at 18 do not have an identified transition plan. Considerations will be given to those children who are involved with DCFS and have aged out within the previous 18 months based on an established criteria. Mr. Speaker, the Independent Living Program will provide stable housing and intensive support and guidance to assist these young persons developing the life skills necessary to become successful and productive citizens. Program deliverables will ensure the young person has stable housing, support in education and vocational training, attains money management skills, support the young person in building and maintaining healthy relationships and lifelong connections with caring adults, establish connections to medical and social-emotional resources, and assist the young person in securing and maintaining employment. Mr. Speaker, collaboration will take place with workforce development to have the independent living program participants engage with career development officers as a mandatory requirement for employment readiness via their personal employment plan. This will also be required for financial assistance eligibility under the new financial assistance reform. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Child and Family Services is working with the Ministry of Public Works to identify a physical location for the male participants of the Independent Living Program. $500,000 has been allocated in this financial year for the property. The Haven is the identified residential location for female program participants under a memorandum of understanding. The upper level of its Bayview property will be dedicated for use by the Independent Living Program. Mr. Speaker, the Independent Living Program will be operational 24 hours. There will be professional staff, independent living coordinators, and support staff engaged to implement the program. Staff will come aboard trained in working with young persons with complex needs and will be equipped to deliver programming in accordance with best practice standards on youth independent living services. Having staff who fully understand trauma-informed, strength-based service delivery and the performance quality improvement process will ensure a seamless and successful implementation of the quality program. Mr. Speaker, the original timeline for this program was scheduled for April 1st, 2021, with an official launch operational date of 2021. However, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and its restrictions, the timeline for the launch has been pushed back, and the revised launch date is for September 2021. Mr. Speaker, the ministry is also developing a national senior strategy to meet the needs of the growing senior population in Bermuda, to enable Bermudians to age well with dignity and respect. I look forward to bringing the strategy to this honorable house in due course. Mr. Speaker, one of the most vulnerable groups in our community are the homeless, or those that are unsheltered. These individuals or families who lack stable, appropriate housing. The economic effects of COVID has added to the numbers of the unsheltered who were particularly challenged during the recent shelter-in-place phases. Mr. Speaker, this government is cognizant of the challenges of the unsheltered and is helping. This includes the initiatives being managed by my colleague, the Honorable David Birch, Minister of Public Works, under the short-term economic stimulus package, some $1,600,000 in the Bermuda Housing Corporation projects that will produce 17 residential units. This is adding much-needed units to the housing stock of the BHC, who provide a significant service to those needing affordable housing. Mr. Speaker, the ministry is this year providing some $550,000 in direct grant funds to support the operations at the emergency shelter on North Street for the unsheltered. My honorable colleague is replacing the emergency housing shelter on North Street with a new facility this year, which will provide a modern and more suitable facility to those most in need. Mr. Speaker, this ministry provides a further $2,050,000 in grants to assist with housing for seniors and other vulnerable groups. This, combined with the work and funds provided by other entities within government, include financial assistance, ensure that those most in need are helped and will continue to be helped. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to fine-tune our response to assisting the unsheltered and collaborate with the third sector to ensure that resources are directed to those who are most in need. In closing, Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank those organizations in the third sector who have worked so hard to provide assistance to the most vulnerable in our community during this very challenging time. I have had regular meetings with them as we moved through each phase of the reopening of Bermuda to get updates on the challenges that their clients and their organizations were facing. Their selfless work to help Bermudians in need is heartwarming, and I encourage my fellow Bermudians, if you cannot give financial support to these entities, please give up your time. Mr. Speaker, I will continue to collaborate with the third sector groups to ensure that this government is fully aware of the challenges faced by the third sector and their clients. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.